How's it going, everybody? This is BeatTheBush. Today I'm going to talk about budgeting, who should actually do it, why I don't do it, and if you do it, at what point can you switch to not budgeting anymore, because after all, it takes a lot of time. This video is brought to you by Moomoo, the commission-free trading app. Get 5 free shares of stock just for depositing $100 and 15 free total shares for depositing $1,000. Check out my affiliate link down in the video description below. Throughout my entire life, I never really budgeted. I just mostly save most of it and then I spend a little of it, so I know I'm saving a lot. I don't go around keeping track of all my bills, how much goes into groceries, what I spend at the movies, and then add it all up. It just takes a lot of work. But there are instances, probably once a year, where I feel like I spent a lot, like I bought cameras or I went on a big trip and it cost thousands of dollars and I feel like, oh my gosh, that kind of got close to my paycheck, and when it gets close I feel like I need to figure out where it all went. So rather than doing it before, I kind of do a quick check after I spend it all. The people that do need to budget, I think if you spend more than, let's say, 70% of your paycheck, you need to keep track of where all the money goes, because there's so little margin for savings that you need to keep track. And budgeting or not has nothing to do with how much you earn. You might think, oh, if you only earn, let's say $30,000 a year, you have to budget. It's more likely because cost of living is so high, you're definitely going to spend close to 30K. However, let's say you make 300K and you spend 250K of it. That's really close. And I would say you probably need to budget in that instance as well. So this really has to do with how much you spend versus how much you earn. If you're really close to how much you earn, then you need to budget. The reason I don't budget, mainly because it takes a lot of time. It's hard. Every single time you buy something, you got to pull out your phone, waste precious minutes entering all that in. So my normal mode is I have all these tricks on saving. Once you implement these tricks and once you get good at it, it becomes somewhat automatic. So every single month, I know my base burn rate is around $1,500. I earn much more than $1,500, so I don't have to worry about that. If I buy a new camera, $2,000. If I go on vacation, $2,000 to $3,000. It doesn't really matter because I still make more than that. Now, you guys know I keep track of my net worth and I do it once every single month. At this point in my life, I also feel like that might be taking a bit too much time. It's like 15 minutes every single month, mainly because it's somewhat on autopilot. The trajectory doesn't change too much. So personally, I'm thinking about doing it once every 2 months to save a little bit of time. It's kind of like those supermarket grocery store flyers. During the pandemic, I guess they were hurting. So then they did away with sending out flyers altogether. And then when business got better, they started only sending one flyer out and say the front is for this week, the back is for next week. They save 50% of their costs in sending out flyers just for doing that. And I'm sure they send like millions of flyers out there. In this instance, just for eliminating one time of checking your net worth, you're going to save 15 minutes each time, or maybe up to an hour, depending on how complicated it is. At the same time, if you know that it's going along the same trajectory, you don't need to keep track of it all that much. A word on how I got my expenses so low. I've made so many different videos. There's so many tricks to it. I do feel like it's like a giant bag of tricks. Every single one that I implement, it lowers my recurring expenses a little bit. For example, my gas and electric. How do you lower that? I use a kilowatt and I go and measure every single thing that's plugged in. I had an alarm clock one time that was sucking up a lot of electricity just sitting there because it was using a lot of electricity, and I don't really use it anymore. I just recycled it. There are a lot of examples of that, of something using a lot of electricity, just standby power. And I'm not against using electricity when it's needed. For example, you need to wash your clothes. It's going to take 2 kilowatt hours just to do that. But I am against things sitting there doing no actual work that's useful, and those things adds into your electricity bill. In reality, I think most people use very little active electricity, the things that actually do real work. Most of it is wasted, burnt off, turns into heat, goes into the atmosphere, does no work whatsoever. Another example is a hot water pot. A lot of Asian families have those things where you can just push a button, hot water comes out. It's always ready. But because it's really warm, it's insulated and all, but it still gives off a lot of energy. It's powered all day long and it consumes quite a bit. So I use those kilowatt things, plug it in to see how much it's using. And I got rid of mine a long time ago. And instead, if I want hot water, I just make it on the fly. I might boil it with an induction cooker. Takes like a minute and a half. So just from saving electricity, that's one bag of tricks. Imagine a bag of tricks for everything, like car insurance, your savings account, churning credit cards, churning checking accounts, when you're buying stuff, knowing where to get it. And many of these tricks, once it's in place, it just kind of keeps on rolling. There's no additional work that you need to do. All of this comes back to having a high positive cash flow. You can think of it as a bucket, and all the expenses that you have pokes holes in your bucket and you're filling it at a certain rate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on if you should budget or not. Let me know if you budget or not. Thanks for watching this video. Until next time.